Okay, guys, so let us start this, and I'm now recording the session. Okay. Yeah, so last time I said that there is a very one important piece which we need to understand fundamentally, and which is that when you go and create the Power Query, if I take you back to the table one, you see that the Power Query writes the steps, but the Power Query prefix the hash, as you can see here, right? And then there is a double quote. Now this is how the Power Query basically try to write the step with some space so that it can be readable. And at the same time, because you have a space, so there is a rule that if you are writing a step which has a space, then you need to go and prefix the hash, and of course the double quotes are going to come. If you do not do that, you will have a problem. So this is just a simple thing which I wanted to tell you, right? So you should not say that that I can't create a space. Of course you can. If you see this table one, we created here underscore, we created here there is no space, neither any underscore. So if you want that, want to have a space, you can do it. So if you go to the advanced editor, and let's say you say that I want to have a space over here, now the moment you have a space, Power Query will not allow you to do that, because Power Query wants you to put this merge space columns within the double quotes before and after, and hash has to be prefixed. Okay, now obviously if it says error, you should not go ahead. But even, I mean, let's say I haven't checked that and I say done, this is what it says: token equal expected. There is a syntax error, right? So the point is, if you want to create a space, you can do it, right? So for that, you first need to go and cover this within the double quotes like this, and then you need to go and prefix the hash over here. And same thing if you want to do with the other things, with the other steps, you can do it, but make sure then you go and put those in the next the steps also which are using the previous steps. Okay, now the moment I put the hash, you see that, and the double quotes, there is no error coming here. Okay, now if I say done, see what happens. If I click on the done, you will get the another error: the name merge column wasn't recognized. Make sure it is spelled correctly. Now this is an error which I think is can take us to the actually the solution, because some of the errors in the Power Query are little confusing, they are not so clear, but some of the errors are very much clear. So obviously it says that the merge column, I cannot recognize it. Now you know that merge column, you haven't written it actually, because you created the space and you have prefixed the hash also. So why it is still asking you, that it is not there? I mean, I can't recognize it. Obviously this means that merge column is used somewhere else also, and you know it. If you haven't, if you're still struggling that why it is saying, then you forgot that there has to be here the hash also. So we need to go and write the hash, and then the double quotes, or you can type it again, and you see the help is also coming. I press the tab key, and that's it. So this is what we need to always keep in mind, that if we want to create some spaces, you can do it. There is no problem in that, right? So this is how we need to go and take care of these things. So if you, let's say, now want to create one Power Query, and we want to write our own steps, just for practice, just for more understanding, let us go and try to do it. So I right click here and I create a new Power Query. Okay, so I say new query, and we go in the other sources and the blank query. Okay, you can create the query from here also, the the fresh query. So go in the home tab and in the new, the source. So here we can, I think, in the other sources we can find that blank query. So it's all up to you. Now what I'm trying to tell you is that this does not make any sense, because whatever we will write here, obviously that does not make any sense, because I'm just going to write some comments. But let us go and do the practice, let us make ourselves comfortable with the advanced editor, right guys? So first of all, when you create this new query, obviously you have to go in the advanced editor. This is like, you go in the VB editor, and now here when you click on the advanced editor, you always find that the Power Query always starts with let n in. So these are the things, which always comes. You don't have to write it. But let's say if I want to write it, I can just go and backspace it, right? You can experiment it. Let us go and be comfortable. So first of all, I go and write the let space, and then maybe I can press enter here and I can say in, right? And space, and that's it. Now how easy it is. Do you think that it is tough to write it? Make sure you write everything in the small letters, right? So if I have to write something, what is the first step, guys, we do? Well, I can press the tab key and I can write here the step 1. Okay, so let's say we write the step 1. Now in the step 1, what do you want to write? Maybe I want to write, let's say, 2 plus 2, isn't it? So we can write here 2 plus 2. Now this is, I'm only telling you for your practice, right? As I said that this does not have any practical relevance right now, actually not. Okay, so if I have a step here, step 1 equals to 2 plus 2, then I can go and write the step 2 also, and you know that in the step 2 what I will do, I will use the step number 1. So I can say that step 1 plus 10, and then again I can go and use the step 3 also. This is how the Power Query does the things, isn't it? So we say that equals 2, and then in the step 2 I go and add 10 again. So basically this should give me what? 10 plus 10, 20, and 20 plus 4, 24, right? I don't need to write the step 5. I don't want to use the line number 5, so that's fine. But here I will press enter and I write here step 3. I want the value of the step 3. You're getting the point, right? Now if you see that this says token comma expected, comma is expected. So I told you that you need to go and put the punctuation, you need to go and write here comma, you need to go and write here comma. The moment you do that, guys, look at this, no syntax error have been detected. So what will happen if I click on the done? Well, let's go and check that. So I click on the done, and the moment you click on the done, you see that all the steps are there. So the step 3 is actually giving you the answer which we evaluated. Are you getting the point? If you go in the step 2, the step 2 is giving you 14, right? Because 10 plus 4, and this should give you 4. This is how it is, right? And obviously you can rename the query. I mean, this is just for the practice, so I just write the practice session. Okay, I know this doesn't make any sense, but this is how you should be comfortable with the Power Query by practicing on it, or this window. So I can just go and maybe if I want I can further go and change it. Maybe if I want I can write more steps over here. Okay, well, the fifth row I don't need it, so I can press backspace. That's it, right? So let and in are very important, guys. If you don't put the in word, for example, you will get the error, right? So we must go and write the in statement. This is how it is. Now understand one thing, if you go and write I and then in, you find the IntelliSense showing you all the other functions start with the in. So how you can get rid of it? Just press the space bar and that is going to be removed automatically. So I hope now fundamentally we are getting strong, and this let and in and those lines are not actually scaring you, right? So you see that it's actually very simple. The point is, let me close this and let us summarize this, whatever we have done. I just go and like to keep this so that you can practice on it. So what we did in this entire chapter, we can just go and write the summary. Okay, so we started with the advanced editor. Okay, advanced editor is a place where we can see the M code. All right, M code programming, right? And so we saw that every step, basically every applied step which we see in front is there, and that always returns a value or a table, right? Exactly. Step is basically a way to let the user know that there is some action happened, right? For example, if you go back to your that Power Query, you saw that there is a source, and then there is another step called change type, and then there is another step, let's call it step 3, let's call it step 4. So all these steps, what they're doing, they are representing a table, right? because when you go and click on that applied step, you see some data. Obviously that data is a table, isn't it? So I mean, don't think that I'm referring to this table. I mean the data, table or data, whatever you want to call it. And also now you see that I mentioned that it can return a value also. Well, value can also be returned, right? Because if you go back to the Power Query, from this query and connection, you saw that in the practice session there was no data coming. There were some calculations which were returning the value. Now where we go and use those calculations, well, we can make the functions, and using the functions we can go and return these values. This is something we will talk later. So the point is, every step actually gives you something, a value or maybe a table. Am I clear on that part, guys? Right? If you have any questions, you can ask me right away. Right? So this is a table. Now this table does not mean that I'm talking about the table which is in Excel, because this has an additional column also. But table means table, a data, a general table, right? So every step has this, and how these steps are coming basically. If you go in the advanced editor, these steps are what? These steps are actually the output of these functions. That is how it is, right? So we can go and write it that Power Query uses the functions in every step, right? So Power Query uses its m functions in these each of the steps, and this is how we get the data which we actually desired for, isn't it, guys? Right? Now functions Power Query uses, it depends what action we have applied in front of the Power Query window, isn't it? Now if I, let's say, added something, if I added something, so if I added a column, as you saw that, what it does, it added a function called table.add column, something, it did that, right? Similarly, when you go and change the formatting, so if I change the format of a date or anything, it applied some different function, and that was, I think, table.format something. I do not know. You don't need to remember all that, okay? But the point is this, right? So this is how it is. So every step has a function, right? And that function is used in an expression. This is how it is. So basically, you should not be getting confused between the function and the expression, right? There are two things. One is the function and the another is the expression. You see, the expression means the syntax, basically how the Power Query actually accepts the syntaxes, right? So that is the entire expression where you go and write everything, that excel.current workbook and then bracket close, and then in the curly brackets you write table equals to the table name. That is the expression. Function is obviously, it's a simple function, right? It's a simple function which you go and apply, like table.add column, right? So this is how it is. So every step has a function which is actually used in an expression. That is how it is. Now, for example, we guys know Excel very well. So when you go and apply the VLOOKUP, now you see VLOOKUP is a function, and this is the, once you have written this function or a formula, whatever you want to call it, these are the expressions which we have to follow. You can't just interchange them, that, first I want the table array. No, table array will always come after the lookup. Okay. And then, guys, one important thing. So I said that there are some commands you should know. One is a table, and then there is a record, right? We will be talking about this in the coming sessions. And then there is a column, column, we all know that column, what is a column means. And then there is a field value also, and then there is a field name also. So you shouldn't be getting confused in these all terms. Well, gradually you'll follow. You must be knowing it. I mean, after all, we have spent so many years in Excel. Now table is obviously a complete table, which has a data, right? Like in this upper example, record means that row wise, each row is your each record. So if you have, let's say, 12 rows in the Power Query, we can say it has 12 records, right? And these are called the column fields, right? Column names. I hope this is clear, right? And if I have to pick 161, that is going to be a specific value, that is a field value, right? Any value inside the table. So simple. Field name is obviously means that the column name, isn't it? And the column, as I said, that column means the entire column, first column or second column. Now these are the things, you know, which I don't think so we need to learn, because this comes naturally to you when you go and work on it. But I think record is a very important thing. You should understand this record, that these are all the records, because in Power Query we generally use the record word, right, in my opinion. So this is the second record, this is the third record, and this is how it is. Why I'm focusing on the record? Because in the coming sessions, you know, we will be talking about the records and the list. What are they? Because you have so many functions with regards to the record also, and with regards to the list also. If you go to your the website here, it is not just the table related functions, but we can also go and do wonderful jobs with the, sort of like, see this list. If I press list dot, I will start getting the list functions, list any true, list average. What is a list? This is something we will go and, talk about it later, and we will do the practical examples also. So this is a list function, and then same way you have a record also. If you press record dot, you want to combine the records, you want to add some field in the record, there are so many things. So the point is that Power Query is all about using the M functions and just, do the wonderful, the toughest job on your data points, which you simply can't do with the front part. So when we will have the project, we will be able to understand it, right guys? So that's it for now, and now let us meet in the next session. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye bye.